first and foremost, the Dolphins signed Arty Burns to a 1-year contract. He was drafted by the Steelers. Yeah, he was drafted by the Steelers. He was actually a first-round pick of the Steelers, if memory serves me correctly.
He was, 25th overall.
Yeah, and he was. I remember in his rookie season, he got into Mike Tomlin's doghouse like immediately, and never truly made it out of there. So he's a guy with some talent. He's 29 years old, so he's a little up there in age. I guess I'll throw this to you, Josh. How do you see this?
Honestly,
what do you think about this signing?
Yeah, this is a camp body, in my opinion. Right? If I'm being honest, this is. I know. Mr. DDW said that this is really a replacement for, I believe it was Siran Neal. Yeah. And sure. I mean, he's 11-year veteran, right? He's over that 30-year hump. When I saw the name reminded me of what he used to be. And so I got a little bit excited, but then when I watched and kind of took a step back, I mean, cool. I personally don't want to start anywhere in the secondary. If he's a special team contributor, great. Right.
Yeah.
But I really do think that this is more of a camp body. Right. So whoever we draft, maybe if we make another signing, like, Asante Samuel Jr. or Russell Douglas, maybe they'll battle it out and whoever makes the 53 makes the 53. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about this.
You guys have any thoughts on Arty Burns?
This feels like a prove it opportunity. I mean, this could be a guy we see cut next week for all we know. I mean, this hasn't done anything in since his rookie year. Really, I mean, he's been just a guy.
Yeah, that's basically what he has been, and first round pick, and that's basically what he's been living off of. In my opinion. Next, I'm going to move on to the Dolphins brought in a new punter, guys.
Oh, yes.
Brought in a new punter from the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Stonehouse. Now, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this real quick. I'm cautiously optimistic, but hey, look, my only thing is if he doesn't hold the ball as well as Jake Bailey did for Jason Sanders, this move was not worth it to me. Because Jason Sanders finally found his groove again last year. And
it's a fair statement.
And Jake Bailey was a major reason for that. So I just don't want – I would sacrifice yards on the punts to make sure that Jason Sanders remains as reliable as he has been, especially last season. He was automatic last year. It was awesome.
Well, here's the question, Keith.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing yards on the punt. Is this the 2023 Dolphins offense or the 2024 Dolphins offense?
Well, therein lies the problem, Taylor. I don't know. Yes. I don't know, but I see what you're saying. I don't want Jason Sanders to regress because there was a time when Jason Sanders would go out there for a 40, 45-yard kick, and we would be sweating. We would be, whereas last year he goes out for a 40, 45-yard kick, and I'm thinking, that's an automatic 3 right there. And by and large, I was right about that. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on this Ryan Stonehouse signing?
Yeah, I think it was a good, swift pickup, but I don't necessarily think it means he's starting right away. I think, if you're looking at their side-by-side stats, which is punter stats, yay. Jake Bailey has a higher percentage of kicks inside the 20, amazingly enough. He can't boot it as far, but he seems to have better placement. Whereas Stonehouse has like almost a 5 yards per average better distance. So you kind of have to figure out what you need more of, I think, at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a competition there.
Yeah. Taylor, what do you think?
I think this is I don't want to exaggerate and say a massive upgrade, but this is an upgrade at the position. It really is. I don't know if you guys got into it with Doug about, adding Stonehouse because I was having some internet issues, but I'll tell you what, man, this is a move that for all this stuff, it's like, oh, is it static? Is this Dolphins 2025 team around what it was in 2024? this and the Daniels move, and probably the Westbrook move, are the three that I'm like, okay, we might have something at least with these signings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you think?
I am the most excited about this over all four of us. This is not even a questionable upgrade. This is a clear and outright upgrade over Jake Bailey. I have never been a Jake Bailey fan outside of was it a 4-game stretch where he looked like a serviceable, mediocre, middle of the pack punter, and then he regressed right back to punting 32 yards out of bounds. And like, no, thank you. Like, in the games where it's a defensive game where both offenses are struggling, you have to play field position. And and we were in a few of those, if you guys remember.
Oh, yeah.
Even with our quarterback situation, which was shocking. And, Jake Bailey, we're on the 30 or the 35, and Jake Bailey punts it to the 42. Like, come on. The Stonehouse has a cannon for a leg. Again, to Anthony's point, the only problem is because of that cannon, he sucks, in air quotes, at dropping it with, inside the 10-yard line, which I will happily sacrifice if it means getting out of our half of the field, right? Which from our 45, when Jake Bailey was punting, it was a 50-50 shot to stay in our half of the 50, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Anthony.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like if this is actually a competition, which we don't know yet, because we have no idea what's going on there, and Jake Bailey wins, we're gonna have some lookouts for Josh over there on bridges.
Well, that crow is gonna taste horrible, fellas, if that's the case.
Well, one thing that does play in Stonehouse's favor is the Dolphins' new special teams coach. Where'd he come from? Tennessee.
Yep.
So I think he probably will end up being the new punter for the Miami Dolphins next season. Again, I have mixed feelings on it. I want to see how Jason Sanders kicks first.
Yeah, I look at it this way. I don't think it could be I don't think it can be any worse from a punter standpoint. I think, to your point, Keith, let's see, how he holds, right? And I think Sanders is a seasoned enough veteran and a very good kicker, in my opinion, if it's not right, he'll fix it. Right.
I hope so. Kickers are weird. They're weird, man. They're creatures of habit. You one little thing is off about them, and suddenly their whole routine is, But look, we'll see how this plays out. Don't want to spend too much time on the Dolphins punter.
Hey, we spent a good amount of time. Pat McAfee would be proud.
Yeah,
on the special teams.
Apologies to Pat McAfee. Sorry about that. All right, so the Dolphins also brought in 2 new linebackers. I'm going to group these guys together. KJ Britt and Willie Gay Jr., who was just signed today. 2 one-year deals. Willie Gay Jr. obviously was on a couple of the Chiefs' Super Bowl winning teams. Played a largely anonymous season with New Orleans last year. And then KJ Britt, a veteran, bounced around a little bit. Been with Tampa Bay. Hasn't started a ton of games. Started 11 games for them last year, though. What are your guys' thoughts on this new duo of linebackers? Taylor, I'll start with you.
I'm a fan of this move. Well, both moves, actually. I don't think either of them are clear-cut starters, nobody that necessarily moves the needle. But what we've been talking about the whole episode about a lack of depth at various positions, linebacker looks pretty good overall, at least depth-wise. You are missing, you got Jordan Brooks, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, you are missing that person that's a clear-cut starter.
Yeah.
There, that somebody like Jahad Campbell would be awesome. But other than that, I'm very happy with the depth on linebacker.
Do you think that maybe the KJ Britt and Willie Gay signings maybe takes them out of the Jahad Campbell sweepstakes here?
I hope it doesn't, because I'm right there with a lot of people that Jahad Campbell is an absolute stud, and I would not be upset at all if he goes with Dolphins at 13.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I think that there are more pressing needs is the only thing. And I know, Josh, you're especially a huge fan of Jahad Campbell.
God, yes, I sure am.
But I think that there are more pressing needs at 13, especially with the signing of Willie Gay and KJ Britt. Now we have enough depth to sustain us. And we don't need Jihad Campbell, so it feels like a luxury pick. What are your thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, Willie Gay Jr. I'm honestly, genuinely not too familiar with. So okay, cool.
He was good for the Chiefs. He was
Yeah.
good on as a rotational linebacker on a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah. So, cool. That's great. Depth, right? As long as it's not intended to be a starter, right? But, I think KJ Britt, I was high on. I'm using that term very lightly, right? I think he slides into that Anthony Walker role, right? So we lost Anthony Walker. KJ Britt steps right in, fills that role, maybe a 40, 50% snap count kind of guy like that. He's a bigger body, right? Good at stuff in the run. Like, that's great. That's what we need, right? We have Terrell Dotson, who I think is capable of being a starter, right? But in an ideal situation, Dotson's your number 3, KJ is your number 4, other guy is your number 5, right? And then and that's why Jihad Campbell's still really high on my list. I understand, Keith, your logic where it is a luxury pick because we do have some depth, but I think Jihad Campbell is, to Doug's point earlier, he's got potential to be Ray Lewis-esque type, Patrick Queen-esque. You put him next in our starting linebacker core, you have a player that can drop in coverage, that's 6'3 plus, runs a sub 4 540, and
sideline to sideline tackler.
Yeah, and has over 12 or 13 sacks, right? So you're getting a full, 3 down, 4 down type player as a starter on a young rookie contract that can grow into this offense. I understand. I am with you. I know that seems now like a luxury pick, but to me, that is the type of luxury pick you make when you can bring that kind of potential in the building, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I certainly understand where you're coming from. And again, I should reiterate this point. I love Jihad Camp. I think he's going to be awesome in the NFL. It kind of sucks that every time there is one of these stud linebackers, these guys are just blue chip type linebackers, it doesn't seem like it's on the menu for the Dolphins. That was kind of how it went with Roquan Smith when he came out.
I wanted him so bad.
Yeah, so did I. And Patrick Queen, and guys come out of and even like Jack Campbell, who went way earlier than I thought he was going to go to the Detroit Lions. He was a guy I wanted the Dolphins to draft, and we missed out on him because linebacker simply wasn't on the menu for the Dolphins that offseason. Anthony, what are your thoughts on these two guys?
Yeah, good depth pieces. I think we rotate this position a lot. I mean, these guys, Anthony Walker and Dotson played a ton last year, just rotating that number 2 spot. So I think it's good to have some guys with good experience that can rotate in. You don't have to worry about them missing their assignment. I mean, that's the hope, at least when you sign veterans, right? It's like, at least mentally they will be there, even if their physicality isn't, what you need it to be. On the Jihad Campbell side of things, I always think back when I think about this in positions that you don't need necessarily. Okay, but like if you didn't need Ray Lewis and you took a position of need and you passed on Ray Lewis, does that make it right? Like, I think you take, if they think, let's say, that Jihad Campbell could be as good as Ray Lewis, I don't think there's anything that should stop you from taking that player. And it doesn't matter what the player's name is. Insert player X, right? If you are convicted enough in a player to believe that he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, then I don't care what the mock drafts say or what your current roster says or any of that. Like, I think you should take that player. So if Campbell truly, right? If Campbell is that at 13, if it comes to 13 and we're looking at the board and we're like, well, Campbell's there and we think he's going to be really good, but Tyler Booker's there as well and we need a guard.
Yeah.
If you take the guard in this situation, that's not necessarily the right move because who knows, maybe Tyler Booker's a good starter for 5 to 6 years and you're like, okay. But then Campbell goes on to be a Hall of Fame and you're like, that's still not the right choice.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question
for
you, Anthony. You said what you said about Jihad Campbell, like you don't pass on what you could see as a top tier talent, elite talent. I don't want to go to Hall of Fame worthy because I don't think that's necessarily fair to put on these prospects just yet.
Yeah, I was
but-
speaking in hypotheticals only.
Yeah, it's hypotheticals.
Yeah, exactly.
But would you be fine with like taking a running back, for example? Because a lot of people talk about Ashton Jeanty. He is one of the most productive college football running backs of all time.
Didn't expect you to go there, but
Yeah,
damn.
no,
Would
but
that
that's
be worth
it's such a good question though.
It
And
really is.
Yeah.
That's so much harder because I do think Achane is legitimately good, and you
Mhm.
know could potentially be a top tier guy. But if Genty's like, I mean, if you're telling me we draft Genty, we're getting Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or you know, and enter name of really good running back who makes
Marshawn Lynch.
right?
That's what it
Marshawn
reminds
Lynch,
me of. Yeah.
right? Like if you're telling me that's that guy. Okay, we figure it out. We take him anyways. We figure it out. Like, figure out what to do with Achane. Maybe you could trade him. I don't know, but like, yes, I truly believe that. Only in the instance where you think the player could be that type of guy, right?
So
Gotcha.
Taylor,
Well,
I mean,
sorry.
I'm going to throw the same question back to you. What do you think about that?
I see Anthony's point. It's hard for me because I am a big fan of Ashton Jeanty. Whenever we get into our full-on draft prospects here and what our thoughts on him, he's one of the top 3 players in this draft to me.
Mhm.
That
Easy.
said, you do look at this roster and you're like, man, this roster is not good enough to justify taking a running back at 13, even if he falls. Like, but at the same time, Anthony has a great point. Like, if you think he can be that good, and I think he can be that good, I don't know if I'd be upset if the selection was somebody like Ashton Jeanty.
No,
I doubt it. Highly doubt it.
No, I mean, look, and I'm sure those that are watching, I know I'm going to get lit up on social media when I say this, right? But this is probably why I'll never be, well, I mean, for many other reasons too, but this is why I'll never be a GM in the NFL, because I think that you never let top end talent, you know, or rather you don't not draft top end talent due to a need. If there's a player that it is a genuine consensus in your draft room, right, in your war room or whatever you want to call it, that this guy is a generational type player, take him, figure it out later, right? I mean, how many times have we passed up on players that have turned out to be all pros and potential Hall of Famers to draft the Noah Igbenogidys and the Austin Jacksons or you know, of the world, which, okay, one's a decent right tackle, got his shit together. Pardon my French. There's my one for the day, fellas. You know, got a contract extension, is a very good, above average starter in the NFL at right tackle. But you pass up on, you know what I mean? Like, you just get good players on your team and let players play. And that is a philosophy that I truly believe in.
I mean, you could say that the Raiders did it last year by taking Brock Bowers as high as they did, right?
Mhm.
A tight
Yeah.
end that
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
Like we don't see that very often. And
Yeah.
they said, screw it. We think this guy could potentially be the next Shannon Sharp. We're going to get him, right? Or the next
Especially
Gronkowski.
Anthony, the Raiders were a team that was just full of
They were
holes.
filled with holes.
Every position.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
every one of them.
And they're like,
They
you know what?
lost
We're
out.
taking Brock Bowers because we think he's the best player in the draft.
Mhm.
And you know what?
He
Dude
probably
went
was.
out. Yeah.
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 Dude went
I mean,
out
let
and
me
just
ask you a
balled
question,
out.
Keith. Let me ask you a question, right? So TJ Warren, I think we all love him. I've seen him muck to the Dolphins tons of times. We have Jonnu
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to pass up TJ Warren? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, those
Tyler
are the
Warren.
ones.
Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I knew
what
who
did
you
say
meant.
TJ? I
You
meant Tyler.
rename
I'm
him
sorry.
TJ every time.
Every
we're-
time. I don't know what it is. It's like a mental block.
Maybe his middle name starts with a J. Maybe his middle name is
Yeah, that's
J.
what it is. Yeah, his mom called and said his
Yeah.
middle name is Josh.
No, I see where you guys are coming from. I really do.
I
And
mean-
Tyler Warren, I mean, look, Taylor, I know you're a huge fan of Tyler Warren. We've talked about it several times. I'm equally as good of a fan. And he's also Penn State. I love Penn State, you know, football. And dude, I think he's going to be a great pro. I do.
Yeah.
But no.
I guess the question is,
No,
it's not would
because-
you draft him, but I guess the question really is, if we drafted, if the Dolphins drafted him,
Yeah.
how mad would you be? Right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the
Well,
question. I don't mean you. I mean the royal.
you know,
but
I mean, first of all, that it depends on what else they do in free agency. But like, let's be real about this, guys. There's still so many holes in this team
Mhm.
Tight end really isn't one of them right now. You know, I mean, it kind of is because they really only have Jonnu and a bunch of just the guys out there. But, you know, we need a guard. We need a starting guard. We need a number 2 cornerback. We need probably an alpha in the safety room. We need defensive tackles. You know, Dudley Durong was so right. Defensive tackle, our cupboard is bare. We have Zach Steeler and nobody else. And we're going to draft Tyler
period, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only player we have.
And
in
we're
no
draft...
way, Keith, am I trying to say, hey, we need to go get Ginty or we need to go get... I'm not saying that at all. I'm with you 1,000%.
Right. I know what you're saying, but, you know, we draft Tyler Warren and it's like, well, we think he's the next Travis Kelce. All right, cool. But who's going to protect Tua? You know?
Tyler
who's going to rush the passer? You know, it's just, it's hard for me to justify. That's all I'm saying. It's hard for me to justify a luxury pick like Jahad Campbell or Ashton Genty or Frozen Fin Fan. Great to see you,
he is. What's up, buddy?
Listen, I'm going to bring this back full circle before we put a cherry on top because I think we were talking linebackers before we got into the draft concept there. But I would love it if we traded down a couple spots, picked up another pick, and still got Jahad Campbell. I mean, that's my dream right now. Yeah. If I had to like tell you what's my dream scenario for the draft, that would be it.
And the thing is, like Jahad Campbell, he could go anywhere between like 10 and the end of the first round right now.
Yeah,
I've seen him mocked all over the place. So that's certainly a possibility, Anthony. And if we did that, I would not be upset. All right, so next free agent to talk about here, Farah Brown. Farah Brown, he's kind of like a I hate saying it. He's kind of a Julian Hill type of guy. He's an inline blocker, not much of a receiver. Started a few games for the Seahawks last year, though. Josh, I know you're actually a big fan of the signing. So,
okay, time out.
All right, you're a fan.
Whoa, fucking throwing me under the bus there for a second. No, okay, I'm not a big fan of this signing. I like it. I understand it. And I like the cost, right? Yeah. I mean, 6'5", 246. This is a exact replacement for what went out the building in Durham Smythe. That is all this is. This dude blocks his rear end off. And that's all he does. He can't catch a ball. He can't catch a cold. He can't, I mean, nothing. He's not fast. But what he does do, he does extremely well. And that is block. And in an offense where last year, at the very least, you have exactly. Yeah. Except I don't know why everyone keeps comparing him to Julian Hill, because Julian Hill's he's a fast receiver, just huge, right? This guy does
worth a lick.
Right. This guy is like a skinny lineman, in my opinion, right? I mean, he's a slim down lineman at the tight end position. So when you're running 8 protection sets, this is your guy. It's not Jonnu Smith. It's not Jillian Hill. And I said Jillian on purpose for those that are new to the show. It is a running joke. He is a blocker, and that's, you know what, if that's what he does and that's what he brings to the team on a 1-year deal that's team friendly, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? I don't love this. I'm not buying his jersey next season, but
I may have over exaggerated your enthusiasm for this deal, so I apologize.
I already got his jersey. It's coming. It's on its way.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on this one?
I don't have any thoughts on this one. I mean, what is this guy? Like, he may not even make the team. It's like Jody Fortson all over again here.
Taylor, any thoughts on this one?
He has some similarities of why I like a James Daniel signing or a Westbrook Akine, to where they both have this like tenacity in the way they play. Yeah. As you know, the young people say, he has that dog in him.
Yeah,
and that is something that
as the young people. What are you?
As the young people say.
You're 10 years younger than all of us, Taylor.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. But Taylor's off the show now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like his blocking style, and that's something that I think we just need more of. And not to go back in our previous conversation, it's just like, that's the players we need to add. Whoever it ends up being at 13 and in the draft, they just have to be guys that aren't scared to get in there.
Yeah.
And be physical.
Yeah. And I mean, I like what Frozen Fin Fan said here. He's Julian Hill minus the penalties. If that's what he is for us, and that's all he is for us, I'm happy with the signing. And that's, simple as that. Last free agent signing I want to go over here is Dolphins sign Alexander Madison. Of course, he was the backup for the Vikings. Then he was a backup for the Raiders last year. Been in the league what feels like forever. He's just been, backing up Dalvin Cook. We wanted a short yardage back. Asking you shall receive. Here he is. So Taylor, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you think about Alexander Madison?
I wasn't very high on this one.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Madison's game. Early in his career, he was great, but these past few seasons have not been kind to him. Hopefully he can get back on the right track with Miami, but this is a move that's like wait and see. Maybe this ends up being great, but I just hope this doesn't take us out of potentially getting like a late round running back to add to the group too.
Yeah. I'm right there with you there. I wasn't super enthused about the move either. It was just kind of all right, that happened. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, this is like, if anybody who plays a lot of fantasy football, the second running back on a team where you hate the first running back is always super popular.
Yeah.
Right? So like Alexander Madison was always the talk of like the darling fantasy play that every fantasy player talked about because like he's gonna take over the starting position, he's gonna crush it. I don't even remember who was in front of him. Dalvin Cook.
Cook, yeah.
Every time
Dalvin Cook would get hurt.
Right. Dalvin Cook's always hurt. Alexander Madison's going to be great. And the 1 year that he did kind of start for Minnesota, he had 700 yards in 2023. And that got him a contract with the Raiders to replace, Jacobs, Brandon Jacobs.
No, Josh
Jacobs. Yeah. Brandon Jacobs is going way back.
Wow. How old is this guy?
To replace Josh Jacobs. And he didn't do anything. The Raiders were a rotational nightmare at running back all season. And here he is landing in our pocket. This is like one of those guys, you guys have heard me say this saying all the time. I stole it from Draft Day and I absolutely love it. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. That's Alexander Madison. And yes, he can probably run harder than any other running back we have on the roster right now. But that's not that hard. Our running backs don't run over people traditionally. I'm okay with the signing. I think that it's a good, to Josh's point before, like it's good to add somebody who's different than what we currently have to diversify the position a little bit. But to Taylor's point, I hope it doesn't mean that we're done with this position. And I certainly hope it doesn't mean that Jeff Wilson Jr. is coming back.
No, but I will say this though. He doesn't offer much to the team, right? I agree with everyone on that. But what he does do well still, and he did it well last year. Last year he was 24, I think I saw, of 26 or 23 of 26, something like that, on third, under 4 yards on third down to get the first. Right? That's what we need. Pretty right much, yeah. Now the argument can be made, well, the offensive line. So, we'll see what happens. But this is not a starter, right? This is not even a number 2 back. This just shouldn't be, for the love of God, shouldn't be. This is a camp body. This is a break glass in case of emergency. It's the fourth quarter. We're down 3. We're making a drive. We're going forward on fourth down. We need 2 yards. You put him in, you put Farah Brown in, or whatever his name is, and then and you run the ball towards that side of the ball. That's what you do. That's what he's here for. That's what we're paying him. For us is a lot of money. For them is chump change to come in and do, right? Yeah.
He's one of those guys where I always looked at like, if you need 2 yards, Alexander Madison will probably get you 2 yards. If you need 5 yards, Alexander Madison will probably get you 2 yards. That's hilarious. That's kind of what he's always done. And, to Anthony's point, he's one of those guys you roster on fantasy because, like, if Dalvin Cook gets hurt, this guy's going to be a stud, and he comes in and it's like, he's all right.
Well, I'll tell you this, in 2000 and what was it? 2000, when did he start? 2023. He won me I think he won.
Did he?
A few games for me as like a RB3 kind of thing. Yeah, it was great. Anyways,
a lot of catches last year. 36 catches for him last year.
Yeah, and he's a number 3 running back. That's what he is. He's number 3 running back who masqueraded as number 2 in Minnesota for a few years. But he's going to be firmly behind Jalen Wright and Devon Achane in our depth chart, as well he should be. We'll bring him in on short yard situations, see how it goes. And I agree with you completely, Anthony. If this takes us out of the running back space, out of getting another running back in the building, I'm not a fan of the signing.
Yeah. I love how we just swapped running backs. By the way, Mostert goes to the Raiders and Madison comes here.
Yeah. All right. So that's all the free agent signings, unless I'm missing somebody. I don't believe I am.
I got some good takes, fellas.
I know the Dolphins have offered Emmanuel Ogbah a contract. We re-signed Liam Eichenberg. I don't want to spend any time on that one.
To Douglas' point on that, real quick, how are you going to say you're not status quo isn't good enough and then do all those moves?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's absurd.
Yeah,
It's
wild.
so true.